Hey everybody, John Gums from Dakota Grappler coming to you live on a Sunday. We are going to do a breakdown show of what's happening this week for wrestling. For actually what happened all during this week, come from Wednesday on, pretty much through today, and what's coming on. Bill will be coming on here just in a little bit to join me. And so I'm just going to start us off. Now, we had a ton of wrestling that happened this weekend. Everything from the Castellan tournament in Class B in North Dakota to tons of duels that happen in Class A around the state. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share my screen with you, and then I'm going to show you some track results. But we have lots of stuff to talk about. Just going to wait to get to the nitty-gritty of NDSU and other college results once Bill hops on. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what is happening in the background here. And hopefully we can talk a ton of wrestling. Hoping to get done in the next half hour to an hour of time. We are interview on Wednesday coming up, still determining. So I guess we'll see what happens then, since we'll be on again on Wednesday. If you like our content and everything else, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you can, go over to YouTube, catch some of the old stuff we're doing too. So let's see. I'm going to share some information here. Let's go a tab, and let's go right here. Okay, what you can see now on your screen here is some of the results as we go through. Now, I'm going to scroll up and down so that you can see this whole thing. You don't need to see my face because I'm going to make this as big as possible. There we go. You can still hear my voice. If anybody's got questions, feel free to ask. Typing that out, and we'll go from there. Okay. Now, if we look at, I'm going to scroll it back a couple days. We're going to go to Thursday the 7th and start off with some duels. And if you notice, this is a pretty good long list of stuff in just North Dakota that we have covered. We had a ton of duels that went on. And so the first one that I want to take a little focus on was actually a South Border and Lisbon down here. It was kind of a big duel on the 7th. We also had Thursday, we had Bismarck and Legacy, and we'll talk a couple matches there after a bit. But let's go Class B to start here. So what I do is when I go over to track wrestling, let's go look at Lisbon. Now, Lisbon and South Border are two of the top teams in the state, probably both going to be shooting for several. And if you look, here is the score of that duel. If you guys did not see that, well, let's see if that popped up on the screen. I got to go back and make sure you guys see what I see. Okay, got to share a different screen. So I'm going to click on that South Border, and let's remove that one for a second and add a different page. Stop that screen, and I got to share another page because it pops up on a different pop-up. That's my fault, guys, but that's okay. Here we go, and right there. So this is what you see here. Lisbon wrestled Ellendale Edgeley Calm and won the duel 69-6. And then Lisbon wrestled Kindred and won 75-3. South Border did beat Lisbon in a duel. Unexpected by lots of people there, but won 34-30. Quite a deal there. So let's pop that up. Make sure that's coming up on your screen here. And here are the individual results. Now, several of these have been ranked during the season. And so let's take a quick look here. And the duel must have started off at 113. And Wadeson, who has had some big victories this year, beat Hoffman by fall to start off the duel for Lisbon. And then Lisbon come up with another Blaze Renke, won over Lep, and a tiebreaker. So that even made the duel even closer. Close must have got a takedown in the first overtime, 4-2. Here's where South Border made their little run, though. Matthew Wolf got a victory, 3-0. Over Carter Wallner, which was a big victory. And then Marshall Lindgren got a pin at over Mike Nelson. Jay Schnitsky won over Levi Sven. And then that was a close match, 3-2. And then at 45, you got John Shockley also getting a win, 10-3. Then here's where Lisbon makes their run and makes 3 victories to get close back into this duel again, where Bowden Greenlee won his match over Baxter Sand and fall. Jaden Schmidt won over James Schumacher. Now, that's a pretty good close match there. 4-0 was all. Must have been a tight battle at 160. At 170, Lisbon forfeited to Jordan Sowers. Then at 182, you got Daniel Schumacher of South Border, got a huge victory, 5-4 over Hunter Schultz. And then you've got at 195, you have Nathan Schauer getting a victory over Avery Dick, but 10-1 major decision. At 220, you've got Ashton Peterson, South Border, beating Gabe Lyons at 220. And at 285s, you got Grant Lyons with a fall. Then they had to come down to the final match. And you got Riker Vetter of South Border beating Griffin Greenlee in a fall in 48 seconds. So that's quite the duel. And I tell you what, this is going to be a battle for this region. And so we're going to find out tons of information there as the season goes on, because that is a very close duel, 34-30. You never know. They could be on opposite sides of the bracket there. So let's close out that screen, remove that one. That was a really good duel, I guess, and I wish I'd have been there. I'm going to have to make a few calls to make sure that I find out some of the more scoops and things out there. I did hear rumor. Now, don't put this out there for everybody. I was going to wait till Bill gets out there. And maybe somebody can make a comment on this if they've heard this, but I heard that there's a possibility that in Class B, they made a suggestion of not having regions and qualifying all of the wrestlers. So that kind of interesting to me, because I think Class B, you could still have 32-man brackets and it possibly could be done. But I don't know if that's true or not. Somebody, if anybody has the answer, feel free to type it in there and tell me if that's just a suggestion or a rumor going out there. And it'd be good to know that information. Okay, let's go on to the next match that I wanted to really look at. Okay, let's get rid of that one. And then highlight some other duels. I know I don't have time to go through every single duel, but I saw another duel in there. And that was going to be Carrington Central Cass, but the way I heard on that Thursday that Central Cass did not make it to the duel. I don't know if they had some COVID concerns or anything like that. So when I went to, I'm going to share the next screen and we'll look at some matches to pick from. So if you have a choice of a match you want me to talk about, because I've been working on the rankings all week long for Class A and Class B. I know the coaches poll for Class A is coming out. I'm really close to finishing the Class A rankings. I just I made a spreadsheet and laid everybody out at every weight class, and some are very close. In fact, there's a couple barn burner weight classes, and some guys are going to shift up and down, I don't doubt, as it goes. But having a difficult time ranking a couple of the weight classes as they get thinner also. Debating if I'm going to stop it at 6 and rank to the top 6, or maybe go 8 or top 6 and probably 2 to 4 basically honorable mentions. Still debating on that for this ranking. And so here is the next one. Let's share the screen again so you guys can see what I am looking at. And I'll go to Chrome. And let's go, here we go. So when I open that up, you can see that I'm going to scroll to some more duels so we don't take a long time. But as you can see, I wish the scores would always pop up on here on Track Wrestling, so that the scores would come up and it'd be easy to see. And then you'd have all the teams listed. I like when you see up on top here, you have Bismarck wrestles Legacy and Williston. It says varsity. I do like that. Fargo Davies. Now this is a great match. I wouldn't mind looking at a little bit of that here in a second. Fargo Davies is really coming on, because out of the East in Class A, you're going to have, Valley Cities in other rankings is ranked as high as maybe 2 in the state, and I'll debate that a little bit. When I started to finalize my rankings, I think they might be 3 or 4. So, but we'll see when the ranking gets all the way done, and I'm hoping to get that done late tonight so I can publish that sometime tomorrow. The one I wanted to look at actually was this triangular right here. Now, I had already looked at these results from last Thursday in there, and I wanted to see how close Des Lacs Burlington was to both Williams County, who was really coming on, and also then you have Bishop Ryan of Williams County. So I have to share another screen as soon as I click it, because it opens in a different screen every time I do this. So let's look at the Des Lacs Burlington matchups here. Okay, I got to share a different screen. There we go. It takes me a second because a different screen pops up there. thanks for being patient with me, guys. I see we have quite a few people out there watching this, but right there. Now you can see what popped up. Now, the duel that I was kind of interested in, you see these are close duels. Bishop Ryan did beat Delax Burlington 34-33. So, when you get up to Region 3, it's going to be a battle. Now, Velva has a really nice team. And who's going to be that second team coming out in the duels? Is it going to be a Bishop Ryan? Is it going to be a Delax Burlington? There's going to be quite the battle for that second team coming out of that region. So, let's take a quick peek here at some of the matches in there. I'm going to click on the duel here. There we go. Now this duel, now I'm not sure. Now some people that were there, if this started out at 106, usually when the duel does, it goes all the way through unless they punch these in later. The thing that gets to me a little bit is when there are opens, it makes it really tough. Now you see at 145, looks like, Minot Ryan did not have a 45-pounder, or Bishop Ryan did, but Delax Burlington didn't. And then the two bigger weights up here, the two Robbins boys did not get matches, okay, for Delax Burlington. And that made the duel really close, but really it's tough if you go into a duel tournament having those open weights to be really competitive. So let's see here. A couple of I like there, this Lane Cooper from Bishop Ryan had a good victory at 113. That's 11-4 victory over Gunnar Rakeness. You also have a couple of other ones, which you're probably going to see some ranks in there. You're going to see that Harrison Schwartz from Delax Burlington got a pretty nice victory, a major decision, 13-4. Cale Eibach from Delax Burlington. I mentioned him earlier this year. He got a pretty good victory when you see his major decisions, 9-1. People are scoring some points. Let's see here. Connor Harvey got beat 12-0 here at 160. So you see this kind of group ups. Bishop Ryan, you got the Oaksons, and they had some big victories there. Tell you what, the swing in the duel right here is probably at 170, where you see Cade got a victory at 6-4. If that switches around the other way, the duel ends up going to Delax Burlington instead of Bishop Ryan. So very interesting there. I'm hoping that they can fill these weights later on. Minot Ryan, I haven't talked to their coach in a little while. I'm hoping that that's doing okay. So let's get rid of that again. Now, Bill should be coming on here in just a few seconds. We're definitely going to have a lot to talk about tonight with the college wrestling. Several other things, Dake match. We got several things. Let's get rid of this and see some more matches here. Okay, the next one I want to look at, there's Bill, I think, coming on right there. So I'll add Bill here. There we go. There's Bill. How's it going, Bill?
It's going
fantastic. Got a little pause. I didn't know you'll come in here shortly. He's still coming in for the first time, so if he has to clear out and clear in, we'll get him. There we go. Yeah. Good. So that's good, Bill. You have a nice, safe trip then from Aberdeen?
Yep. Very fast. I mean, safe, very safe.
I was happy you didn't hit another deer.
Nope, I was able to miss. I did not see any deer, so I don't know if there wasn't any or if I just didn't see them. Okay. No, it was good. There was a little bit of traffic on the roads, but roads are good, and Aberdeen was good. Nice big tournament. Almost felt kind of like normalcy.
Yeah,
a lot of people running around with masks on, but besides that, it was seemed like a pretty normal day.
How many kids did Carrington take down to Aberdeen?
We only two.
Only two, okay.
Yeah, they filled up really fast, and we just, we had the information out there, but I don't think people were prepared for a tournament to fill up. I think, they're kind of in this mode of being used to just, you go at the last minute and you can get in, and by the time I think when I asked at practice on Monday or Tuesday, I asked how many people thought they were going to go, and all kinds of hands went up, but within about 2 hours it was filled up, and nobody got their registration in. But
well, I'll take that demand, because that's going to allow other tournaments to have several wrestlers instead of piling some of the big tournaments in with 700, 600, 700 kids. Let's get a bunch of smaller towns with 200 kids in them, and and I guess what? Because I tell you what, those first few or Gorillas has them, and Matt Pack and Minot, they're so packed. People are used to going to those and getting good competition. But guess what? This will allow some people probably not having to travel quite as far, I'm guessing. And
they had 400 kids. Actually ran real smooth. Not really didn't ever have any waiting. It was well run. Went fast. Gorillas. I don't know how many they had. I was going to try to look and see if I could see. But Gorillas were there. Matt Pack was there. Tech team. Bison Wrestling Club out of Fargo. Lots of South Dakota kids. So it was a pretty well attended event.
That's good. I like to see that wrestling's healthy, and it's going that way. Well, I went through some Class B duels. I just for the first about 15 minutes before you hopped on. I just wanted to get through that and Lisbon and South Border duel that happened.
Yes.
And I tell you what, a lot of people were surprised when I talked to them this weekend that they didn't know South Border was as tough as they are, because Lisbon they knew was going to be in the mix, but that's a big win for South Border. Yeah,
it is, and that was obviously it was a close duel, and South Border was able to win that with, they forfeited at 170, and maybe at 170,
yep,
he gets 6 Jordan anyway there, but I guess we're going to see something. South Border is coming to Carrington next weekend to wrestle, so that could be kind of fun.
Well, have you heard anything about Central Cass's team from not coming to the duel to Carrington? Or that's just a small incident, or it was okay?
COVID issue. Yep, but they wrestled Saturday in Castleton. So, but yeah, they did not come on. I don't know if it was a close contact or if it was an actual COVID issue, but it was COVID related anyway.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, I am going to share the screen. I want to go through 2 more things at least, and then we can talk NDSU, we can talk Carrington, we can talk lots of different things. But I wanted to go through at least 1 or 2 more duels, one in the Class B and one in the class, and at least 1, 2 in the Class A. If people didn't see some of those crazy results as they go, but I want to share the screen here again. I tell you what's interesting is I wish when I shared my screen, that when I want to show them, it pops to another screen. So I got to unshare and share another screen. But on here, as you can see, and I'm going to make it full screen so you don't need to look at us, Bill, it's because our voices are best for radio.
Yes.
Our faces
got a face for radio. I do.
Okay. So when I look at this, what's interesting is one of the duels in Class B I just went through was that the Lax Burlington and Minot Ryan had beat Lax Burlington, and I showed that they had 3 opens in a couple places. That makes it tough to face Velva. So what I was trying to do, and I thought I saw that Velva was wrestling this weekend, and
Velva wrestled at the
Central Cass.
No, they were at the Bishop Ryan tournament.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, so then I wanted to see that because there's the Central Cass tournament. We can look at that in a second. Yeah, we can go that. So here's the Bishop Ryan. There we go. Bishop Ryan Wrestling Tournament. And wanted to just basically when you open that up, and then when I clicks out of that, then I got to share a different screen because it goes to the gateway into the tournament. So
Velva had every weight class filled there except for 220. They had every other weight class filled. So,
okay. So let me then share that screen. And we'll go to the final results. Actually, there. Got to get faster hands to be able to share all these different screens. That's one thing that I wish that I don't know if you can't share multiple screens on StreamYard. That would be kind of cool if you could do that. Kind of have one in the wings. You don't kind of pull one up much easier.
Right. Yep.
Okay, we talked about Colin Dean before. You see on that?
That was a kind of an exciting match. Colin had a real nice lat drop early in the match. Ended up holding Trace there for 3 near fall and then turned him again. And so he was up 7-0 pretty quick. But Trace, Trace didn't give up. He kept fighting back. So it was Colin's tough, and he's given Trace some pretty tough matches for several years, not just at the 106 pounds. So,
Right.
But that showed me some stuff out of Trace, and Colin Dean is still a good tough kid. So,
Okay. And that Riker veteran got a pretty good match and won a match against Lisbon in the duel too. And I go back to that. I think it was. So it was pretty close. Okay. So then let's go to 113. Lane Cooper, an ex-Matt wrestler up at mine at Ryan. And he had must be really picking it up last year. He took a few lumps. But, it depends on how big people get after a while. If you're a small 106 pounder the first year, and then you kind of stay down 106, 113, you really start this improvement going on up, because that Connor Bosch is a good wrestler there too.
Yes, absolutely.
So so what's interesting is he met the best wrestler opening up, and so they're doing this. Well, the first place match. Well, they had some brackets and they must have had some round robins.
They had both. Yep. They had some of each.
Okay. Then at 120, Tristan Lura found a way to beat Tristan Lepp.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. And he must have took it to him pretty well, because I thought that was a closer match.
Yeah, 10-2. Tristan looked pretty good from his feet. Pretty good match for Tristan. Pretty good tournament.
Okay. And 126.
Matthew Duxer comes out with another tournament win. Looked pretty good. Mason Melmer's a pretty tough kid. I saw some things out of Matthew that shows he's still got some stuff to work on. So which is good, right? I mean he can get better. Melmer's going to get better. Matthew Wolf from South Border is a pretty good tough kid. So it's going to be an interesting weight class as the year goes on.
Yeah, 126 is going to be a nice weight class. Okay, then you got Marshall Lindgren.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a round robin here. And Lindgren looked really good with wins over both Ford and Clifton. The Ford Clifton match was kind of a odd one. Ford was able to pull it out at the end, but Corbin Shirley, as an 8th grader, showed a little bit of inexperience and really that's a match he can get. He was ahead the entire match, gave up a reversal and back points with about 6 seconds left. So
he must have gave Marshall a pretty good run with a 6-5 match too. If he's related to the other Fords, I tell you, they're all kind of dangerous.
Yep. So yeah, it was a Lindgren's tough and yeah. So it was there were some good matches there.
Okay, well, let's go to 138. Gunnar Mogan.
Yeah, Gunnar Mogan looked good. I did catch his match with Trevor Hogarth. Trevor came out, got the first takedown, and then Gunnar just kind of took it to him after that. And I think that's kind of, I would say the same thing. Actually, the same thing happened when Trevor wrestled the Northern Lights kid, Jacob Hudson. He got the first takedown and then ended up getting tech fault. So I don't know. That's Trevor's first trip down to 138. I'm not making no excuses. I don't know what happened. I was not there. I did watch quite a bit of the tournament. Actually, I saw most of the Carrington matches, but there's some good kids there. Gunnar Mogan's a tough kid. He's looks like that may have been his first action of the year. He's 3-0. So we'll see as the season goes on. All these kids get a few more matches.
Right, he'll be in the mix for be a top seed. Right,
absolutely,
there. Definitely. Yep. Senior from Velva there. Okay, yep. 145.
Breckenlura ends up with another tournament victory. He had a real close match in the finals. Ends up winning sudden victory, 16-11. So, kind of a obviously feet to back situation there, but that's a lot of scoring. I think that Wesley Harvey's a good tough kid. So that was a good one. And actually, that 5th place kid, John Shockley, he's he pinned Brecken at the state tournament last year. So,
well, I tell you what,
they wrestled in the very first round, and I know Brecken was looking for that match. So,
well, I tell you what, this is a pretty good match. That Riley Odin from Rugby's a good kid too.
Yep,
that's a pretty nice bracket there. Okay, going to 152. Baxter Sand,
yeah, South Border champ. We should probably just mention South Border. They did, obviously they dueled at Lisbon the Lisbon duels on Thursday. They wrestled the first day of the Central Cross tournament on Friday, and then they were in Minot on Saturday. So they were out trying to get some matches and obviously did a good job. They had a great weekend. They had a great day Thursday, a great day Friday, and a great day Saturday. That's a good squad, good coaching staff, a lot good youth program. I mean, it's they're always in the mix.
Yeah, you could say they're mowing the grass the right direction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, 160.
Another champ for South Border, James Schumacher over Northern Lights kid in the finals there. So that's good for you had a couple Region 3 kids in there, taking 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So,
well, I tell you what, this Cade McLeod came on last year quite a bit, and I see he's 12-2 on the season.
12-2. He's a senior. Yep.
So he's going to push some people. That's pretty good. You get to be a senior sometimes. You kind of get it.
Yep.
I've seen that many a times. Okay.
Well, they say puberty is a PED, right?
Yeah.
You guys, they start growing and getting some muscles they didn't have 2 years before that.
Well, I tell you what, they say when you start lifting weights, it's chocolate milk is another PED.
Yeah.
Okay, 170. Got Ripplinger.
Yep, from Beulah Hazen. Good,
he's undefeated,
good tough
on the
kid.
Season.
He's 10-0. So he oversells her from Velva, another good kid. And actually, the Schumacher kid has looked pretty good early in the year too. He was kind of the one that, got some points I think for Lisbon or for South Border in that Lisbon duel too. So that's a good solid bracket.
Well, they're going to depend on him when it comes to the state tournament, no matter what. Because that duel, you need to have somebody solid no matter what. Get a victory when you're not supposed to, or prevent extra points.
Yeah, they bumped him up to 182 in the Lisbon duel, and he ends up getting a win at 182 after giving up a forfeit at 70, and it made all the difference in the world in that duel.
182. There's Michael Clifton.
Yeah, Michael Clifton had a pretty dominant performance. I think Tech fall on a couple pins, maybe, or I think Tech fall on a pin and maybe a forfeit, if I remember right. They had a medical forfeit at the end. Yep, Wyatt Hansen.
Yep. Okay. Well, that was a round robin, smaller bracket a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, this was a small bracket too. Three-man round robin. Calder Kwame ended up with a medical forfeit out there too. So, but you got two good, tough kids above him. And Nathan Schauer obviously is a very good kid and good wrestler. And Selzer's another big, strong, tough Velva kid.
Okay. 220.
Bo Retzloff is continuing to keep the season going. He's 10-0. Ended up with I think, to me, I thought that Ashton Peterson of South Border might be, one of the kids that's going to push him, and Bo ends up getting a pin there. So it's
a big victory.
Yeah, he's having a good year. He's kind of a big, strong kid. He moves really good at 220. He's a guy that probably could wrestle 95. But he's tall and strong, and yeah, it's good. He's been in the program, obviously since he's been 5 years old. When it came through pit crews, he's been in the room a long time, and he's putting it together. Okay. I think he was fifth at the state tournament last year, if I remember right. So
yep. And 180 or 285.
Yeah. Nick Hodges of Velva, big heavyweight that's, having just getting the season started, but that this is going to be, I don't know. I think, heavyweight's one of those weight classes. It's kind of wide open. I don't know. There's going to be good kids from a lot of places we're going to see at the state tournament. So,
Well, I tell you what, I never did hear a finale. I called and left a message to find out if that rumor that you mentioned was true or not.
well, I did hear a little more about it today. I guess we could talk about it. I don't know if it's true. If it's,
I kind of mentioned it on before you hopped on here, actually.
Yeah. Well, what I've heard is the decision's going to be made on Tuesday. They're going to have a meeting with the Class B coaches. They're going to make a decision. The word is out there to try to do away with the regional tournaments, and I couldn't give you any way what that means. What that means as far as a state tournament. If we're looking at 32-man brackets, if everybody's going to go to the state tournament, I really don't know what that how that all works out. I think there's some coaches that are very nervous about getting to the state tournament, and they're trying to figure out how you make give us a way to have maybe one less event and also maybe give you a chance of a quarantine type period to get there. So, whatever it takes to get to the state tournament at the end of the year. I've had this conversation with a lot of, college coaches too, and they're feeling the same way, right? Now we got started. Now we're going. We have to find a way to get to the end. We got to get to the finish line. So Isaac Henjum, best match of the tournament. Which match are we thinking of there?
That's what I just typed. I said, just which one? He must have. I wasn't paying attention.
I didn't get to see them all.
So they must have mentioned one of the matches that we talked about was the best match of the tournament. So feel free to make that comment again. That's pretty good, or whichever was the best there.
Yep.
Because I tell you what, some people as the fans, you guys get on there. There were some great matches this weekend. Tell you what, Thursday night, St. Mary's brought it to Century.
Yeah, what a great goal.
And Century won by a pin in the last match. And St. Mary's, Century kind of jumped some weights. Oh, the Lura versus Harvey.
Lura versus Harvey. Oh, yeah, I could believe that. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you go to a match that goes 16-11 or 16-12 or whatever it was in sudden victory. Yeah, that was a good match. Absolutely.
But okay, I'm going to show you a little bit. One more thing to pop up on the screen here. Let's get rid of this. And I don't know. I kind of like when I'm going to go to that Class A. I did see. It was interesting. There was, if you pay close attention to things, Bismarck had a duel against Jamestown, and Jamestown actually wrestled pretty well and ended up getting an upset at 160. Muse jumped up at 160 and beat Renner.
Oh, really?
It was a close match all the way through. And I did invite one more person on. There we go. I'm going to pop him on right away. There he is.
Tom.
Hey, Tom. I had to get a little bit of South Dakota flavor in here, too, to find out how things are going down there. I haven't talked to you in a few weeks, so I invited you. I'm glad you saw my invite without me even calling.
No, I just did. I came out of a baseball meeting and just got home, and I saw it. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to eat yet. I got to get on with John and Bill.
Well, I tell you what, it's been great in North Dakota, but we're still short matches. Class B is getting way more than Class A, but I've been so excited. We had a weekend where we got some matches in, a couple. We can still in Class A in the West, we can only have 2 matches a day. And so until they allow anything greater than that, now we have gone from red to yellow and hopefully get closer to green with all the COVID stuff. And I don't think we're going to get allowed to, let's say, schedule anything else, though. That's the crazy thing. So how are you guys doing in South Dakota?
Good. We're still able to do 2 contests per week and 4 matches per day, which it's been challenging because track wrestling doesn't necessarily have, brackets. If you have pigtails and more than 8 teams, that 112 number that the Activities Association set up was based on 8 teams times 14. But when some of the teams aren't full, plus girls, I think up to 24 girls, they didn't, there's not a program to like red flag somebody to say that fifth match. So they're trying to do no contest, and some of the tournaments are doing forfeits. And I think once region comes around, it might be interesting to kind of figure that out, to make sure that it was, an extra match. And, there's been some teams wrestled down in Iowa that have had larger brackets, and there's certainly been some ones we haven't caught down here. But I think for the most part, the coaches have done a good job. But as a tournament manager, if you will, or, you forget that you wrestled a pigtail earlier, and, you come back for third and fourth, and you might get another shot at a guy you lost in the semis to in an 8-man, and you kind of hoping that you could, wrestle him again or whatever, or earlier in the day, and we're just not able to do that. But we're not complaining. I mean, I think a lot of our kids on the varsity side have probably, I think Jack has 17 matches now, which isn't a lot. We'd probably be closer to 30 at this point. But we're not arguing, but it's certainly not the same.
My kid has 6.
Yeah. So I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
And he got 4 this weekend. So it's 2 on Thursday, 2 on Saturday. That is crazy. But no, so everything else has been going goodness. I didn't know you weren't on just a bit ago. North Dakota in the Class B is making a proposal of qualifying everybody for state. And and so it's a proposal, but to me, it's very interesting. See, in the state of South Dakota, you guys are just too big compared to us. You guys would have to go 64-man brackets in Class B. And in Class A, you could go 32-man bracket, though, probably. Because there's 32 teams, isn't there?
I think there's 32 or 33. Yeah, I'd have to look, but it's something more like that. And, on the Class B side, that they don't fill almost, all the weight classes either. So it may not have to be that big. But, there was some discussion about that amongst wrestling people earlier this summer about, if we had to do that, or, having a super region, if you will, too, and do it that way. They've already decided at the Civic Center, or the state has already decided, that we're going to do the A's in the ice arena, which is a really good venue, actually, with 4 mats down there. We do the youth tournament there. And then they're going to do the B's in the Barnett Center. But the one question that's still being asked among wrestling people, and I'm getting texted a lot, is how many tickets are they going to allow? So I'll give an example. We had a duel on Thursday with Douglas at Stevens, and we were allowed 2 tickets per wrestler. Last weekend, we were in Madison, and we got 3 tickets. And I went to Brandon this weekend because we wrestled over in Brandon Valley with some of the Sioux Falls area schools, T and whatnot, and we got 4. So it's not consistent statewide, nor can they enforce that, because when they started to talk about that earlier this year, I think one of the schools basically said, if you do that, we're going to sue you, because we're going to run our own deal here because we're local control. So it's just, so I think the $1 million question right now is, because normally we'd be putting our state orders in here in the next week or so, is nobody knows how many tickets are going to be available, whether that's going to be 2 per qualified wrestler, 4, or whether they're just going to let it, anybody go and just have some restrictions on how you get in or how they do it. But nobody knows yet.
It's crazy, because I tell you what, they've proposed several things in North Dakota they haven't made sure, because they've got the Fargo Dome's huge.
Right.
And they've always divided it down so that they have 8 mats, and they bring these bleachers into one whole side. So it actually looks like a smaller venue. But if they open up the whole thing, they could separate Class A and Class B from one another. And so, but it would make it very difficult for me, being a guy that does media, to go 2 different places at once. But yet it's in the same building. I wouldn't have to go from, let's say, like yours, the Barnett Center and the ice arena. That's a little jaunt for me too, just to go.
That's probably a 300-yard dash, which I might die on the way down there. Yeah. And, the rub's always been, the activity association, they want all their horsepower in one place so they don't have to worry about extra people, and they can kind of do everything in one shot. And of course, the combined tournament has brought in a lot more fans, but we still have a lot of fans that say they really enjoy it. But you really don't watch the A's or the B's. You watch one or the other, and it's hard to catch a match or two. You know how it works.
Yep.
It's just challenging for those people, because you end up catching a period, or you hear the roar and you look over and you've already missed it. So, and I'm not sure how they're going to do the duels. The duel, if you were in the duels, you were supposed to say by Friday, I believe. So they started keeping track of PowerPoints on the activities website. And there are seeds on there now that are just seeds for today,
Right.
not knowing what's not in and etc. But there's some teams that don't have a number next to them. And the assumption in the wrestling world today, in talking to some people, was those teams opted out. And I don't know if they opted out or not, but there's some strong teams that aren't listed with the number, which kind of surprised me. But again, I don't know everybody's situation. And of course, this weekend, the talk was, Canton and Winter were going to get an opportunity to wrestle in press show at the Mid Dakota Monster, but Canton had some COVID trouble over there. I had heard secondhand, and they weren't able to participate. And I think Lyman actually stepped in and had another day of competition, just to have another team there because it was short notice. I think they found out Thursday, but at any rate, it's certainly been interesting. Yeah.
I tell you what, there's always something going on.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay. So how about teams wise? Who's been looking good you've got to see?
This was the first weekend. We had Brandon out here. We dueled them, and they were short some kids. They had some of their 60-pounder who was, Klinkhammer. He wasn't there, and they had a couple other kids out, and we've had some kids out too. We kind of got to go head to head with them this weekend with T, who's really, they've got a really strong team for what they've had in years past. We also got, Sioux Falls Roosevelt was there. But we ended up losing the tournament by 10 points. So it was closer, quite frankly, than I thought it would be, just knowing kind of, how loaded Brandon is this year. But it was, and we had somebody came up to us after the tournament and thanked us for coming, because normally we'd probably be in Bismarck. So it added a team that, those Sioux Falls schools, I kind of feel sorry for them sometimes because they wrestle each other a lot because they don't get to travel as much as we do, and their criteria is 5-6 deep, for some of those kids. It's like, if you lose this week, and that's all right, you get him 3 more times. You know what I mean? So, some of those schools end up, so it was nice to have a little bit of flavor over there, and get to see Brandon and, T, who we didn't get to see at Madison. So there was some pretty good matchups over there, but, they all look good. There's, O'Gorman was there. They've got some kids this year, they've been a perennial basketball and football school, but, their wrestling is certainly back on the rise, I think, over there, East River. And again, you're limited to 8 teams. So, some teams are just taking whatever they can get. Pierre and Rapid City Central were over at West Central this weekend. So there was a little bit of a flavor over there, East and West. We'll be in Mitchell this weekend with Watertown and Pierre and Mitchell, who's got a strong team this year. That'll be an interesting tournament. Huron was over with us in Sioux Falls and Brandon this weekend, so we got to see. They didn't quite have a full lineup, I don't think, but they've got some good kids too. So, we had some success. The Rapid City invite wasn't a normal Rapid City invite because they kind of put everybody in different groups. So you didn't really know where you stood. And so I think next weekend, it'll kind of be at a point where I think everybody's kind of saw each other. I know Sturgis took some kids to Hettinger this weekend. They normally might have been somewhere else as well. Well, so, it's just a weird year. And there's some kids that are out with injury and some that, aren't at tournaments, and you don't know if they're sick or they're hurt or whatever. So you don't know.
Well, it surprises me every time I hop on track. There's a new wrestling tournament at some other place that I ever knew about. Buffalo had a tournament.
Harding County.
Yep. And I don't remember the last time they had one. It's been a long time so that I can remember.
Yeah, they normally host like a youth district or something along those lines because they've got that nice center there. And of course, John Latham's up there now, the old Stanley County coach. He's from that area, and of course, Coach Olson and those guys. I mean, they've got some good kids, but I think everybody's trying to be creative. And the only downside, quite frankly, going back to like when Jack was an 8th grader, is our JV kids are really struggling to get matches. I mean, as much as I'd like to say our varsity would like to get 60 this year, our JV kids, because some of those B tournaments, and I would argue that's how Stevens and Central and Sturgis and some of these West River teams have have gotten better is because we've been able to put our kids in those B tournaments and find that competition as an 8th and 9th and 10th grader to be ready to wrestle and not have to travel too far to do that. But this year, some of those smaller B tournaments, they're not letting our JV in, or they've got to let the B schools in because you're afraid you're not even going to be able to see everybody. So
Yep.
that's been really unfortunate. But we just kind of concluded our state middle school. We're going to be limited to 400 kids this year up in Pierre, and we got that organized. That'll help some of those younger kids, but boy, those freshmen and sophomores, I mean, if you're, second or third string on the JV and they only take 14 of a JV team into a tournament, you're not getting in as an extra.
Yep.
Right.
So true. I agree. We had 2 duels this weekend, and we had, usually before a duel, let's say we'll have 5 or 6 exhibition matches. For one of them, we had 12, and another one we had 13 exhibition matches. Then it took like an hour and a half before each duel, but we needed it. If we could have had another 10 to 20 matches for each, we needed it. We got guys in our JV that have had 1 match on the year, and there's 2 kids that haven't had any because the other team doesn't have anybody their size.
Right.
We've got a couple small guys that I just want to give them exhibition matches against our other small guys in the room, and or anything just to get them out. And their parents, it's hard to keep the parents involved that are new to the sport. Also, with those JV kids, the middle school kids that are coming up, because we have 7th and 8th graders that come up to the varsity room after the middle school season, which was really short in North Dakota this year. And those 7th and 8th graders are getting few matches, and that's got to be tough because those are those years that you could say junior high is where we lose so many wrestlers.
Yeah, it's the retention years. Yeah, that's why we started middle school state. Yep.
I would hate that to happen.
Well, we and Douglas has a lot of middle school kids, and our kids, the 7th and 8th graders, the 8th graders for the most part are up. The 7th graders don't come up. I mean, they could come up and practice a little bit, but they don't get to compete. But I think 6 or 7 8th graders got matches with Douglas kids. I mean, we didn't start the duel, and I did the broadcasting for the duel by myself, which stinks because we had a bunch of blood time, and I'm sitting there trying to recap and, kill time. But I think 6 or 7 of them got matches. And we had, on Tuesday, we've always, the last 5 years, well, Bo Vogelai, a few years ago at the Rapid City Invite, when he took over at Lee Deadwood, he asked Coach King if he would bring his JV up for senior night on a Tuesday night and wrestle under the lights in Lee Deadwood in that little gym. And, it's kind of the night that you get to be the man, so it's awesome. And of course, it's fine. They do their senior night and whatever. And so we've done that like the last 5 years, I think. And we took our JV up there, and there was an 8th grader that needed to fill in at a weight that we didn't have anybody and took a forfeit, but he got an opportunity to go up there and take that as a JV wrestler, which is something that you remember,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we did that on Tuesday. We had a duel with Douglas on Thursday, but like this week, I think we're in Mitchell on Saturday for a varsity, and then there's a Bennett County JV tournament. I don't know if the JV is getting in and how many they'll take. You can kind of, like this weekend in Brandon put some of their extras in to get to that 112 number. So you can get to that number, but it makes it difficult, early in the week to know if you're going to grab a kid and go, 10 hours round trip away and, make sure that they're ready and they're on weight and all that stuff. So our JV didn't have anything this weekend, but next week we go to Mitchell on Saturday, but we don't have another contest this week. So, it's tough. But it's starting to kind of shake out. I mean, some kids have got an opportunity to see each other, and there's some people that have moved some lineups around and some kids that are moving. But there were some good matches this weekend, and it was. And the scary part is we started at 9. I think by 2:30 or 2:45 we were done. Usually you're there till late and it's dark out, and now you're able to kind of get on the road and travel, which I don't mind. But you kind of feel like. I kind of almost didn't want to leave Brandon on Saturday because I felt like I should stay longer, But it was fun. We hadn't been to that tournament because it's always been the same weekend. And of course, they usually have all the B schools there, and they moved all the B schools to Garrettson. So Garrettson hosted the other half of the Dan Pash, Jesse James tournament, and I think they had 8 or 9 teams over there, mostly B schools, but I think Chamberlain went over there as well. So. I mean, nobody's picky this year. We'll go wherever. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it was
So,
it was good.
so what do you think is the biggest challenge here for the rest of the season down there? Just besides, trying to get middle school guys matches, um, you know, we've had such great weather, being able to travel. I haven't had to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
I try to think of what the biggest hurdles for us to do. I think the big thing is still to stay positive and to, just do the best we can to promote everything that's out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we have to do our job with that, and I think it's really important to figure out a way to keep our JV engaged, not just the middle school kids, but the kids that are behind somebody else. To see, to still practice and still do the things that it takes. But I mean, even from a youth perspective, there's not that many youth tournaments happening either. We started our club up, and we actually moved our club to the academy because there were some restrictions from the high school, and I don't even know if we could get the gym. So, there's just not that many tournaments for some of the kids unless you really want to travel. And, I think normally we're probably up over 100 kids in our youth club. And I want to say that we're down in that 70 range this year. And that's not knowing what's going to happen. We still plan to have a postseason, but I don't know that we know what that looks like yet either, you know? So, but from a high school perspective, I think it's, keeping kids safe, and it seems like it's calming down a little bit. Um, but is it? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of guys that were talking that the first part of February they may just shut it down and just kind of hold tight, and so some of those tournaments in February may be a little bit light, or there may be some JV teams that go to those. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see kind of when we get to February, kind of how things shake out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that sounds good because I tell you, South Dakota started it several years ago, starting to do a lot on Sundays, and that really opened up the high school coaches, in the spring. But yet, what interesting is, so many high school coaches are involved at that next level that it makes it a long week having to do things on Sundays too, but the small towns especially. But
We 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 always had our tournament on Sunday down here from a youth perspective, kind of the day after Sturgis, so people could make a weekend of it, or or there was another tournament before that, or they'd come out and it was always that holiday weekend. They might come out and go to the water park or go skiing and get some wrestling in and kind of enjoy the weekend. And we always did kind of a round robin or an 8-man bracket and wrestled it all the way out. So you got 3 matches, or you got round robins. We had some Gehring, Nebraska. There's a few tournaments down in the Panhandle of Nebraska that are happening too. And then Sturgis started something I think this weekend on Sundays where they invited 6 or 8 teams to come and just get matches for their kids. But I think everybody's kind of limited to what the Activities Association came out with, that 112 number. I think that's kind of ingrained in some of the ADs' minds, and that's kind of the number they're using. But if we did that, we could invite 1 or 2 teams and all of our kids, and that'd be it. you know, so it'd be challenging. But I don't. I heard some rumors. We're not going to school on Fridays. I think some of that's changing a little bit in the sense that they're reevaluating things. And I heard the stuff about North Dakota, possibly qualifying everybody. But I haven't really heard much from the state of anything other than people are worried about how many tickets and, getting their hotel rooms and trying to figure that out. But, I think they're just hoping that it's a little bit more than just 2, but I don't know.
right.
Yeah. But it seems like, I mean, you're looking at these different tournaments throughout the state, and like you said, I mean, I think Ipswich had a tournament. I don't know how many tournaments they've had. They had one up, in the northeast part of the state. But I think everybody's trying to be creative. It just puts a little bit more burden on the ADs across the state, who are already probably busy enough. They've got basketball going on. They're trying to figure that out. Unfortunately, I just think we take a back seat, and to be able to have a JV tournament or even duels or something. Sturgis did some duels the other night for Piers JV, and some other people drove out. Girls matches happened, and then some of those girls I think traveled over to West Central and got matches over there. But I think everybody's and it's tough for the parents because they don't know where their kids are going. I mean, Bill, you'd be like, okay, Billy, are you going to Brandon this weekend, or are you going to Bennett County? And some of the
Yeah.
kids don't know.
Right.
So it's certainly been a learning experience, and even in Brandon this weekend, they didn't want all the kids huddled up at the corner because they all sit there and talk, and I mean, it's just, I think we're all learning stuff, and some places they enforce the mask mandate, and some people don't, and I don't think they can really be the mask police in some of those venues, but it'll be interesting to see what the state does here. I think they're still mulling it over in South Dakota, but it generates a lot of revenue for them. And of course, it's one of the staples of South Dakota, to be able to have the tournament and make sure that, we keep that tradition. But it sounds like we're full steam ahead for Rapid. We're just going to split it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been good. I mean, but it's not normal. That's for sure. But I mean, the weather's been good. So I've thought about some of those trips coming back from Mandan and from Bismarck and, going to the Rumble. And, I see Minnesota fired back up, and I looked at some of their rankings on the guillotine today and recognized some kids. And I would have thought, oh, I wonder how many of those kids would have been at the Rumble and, who would have been in so-and-so's bracket. I did get a chance to watch a little bit of the NDSU duel today, and South Dakota State before I went to this meeting. And we're trying to be creative and make sure that I'm texting people the links to Brandon Valley's, YouTube page, and Bro's, been streaming a ton of stuff, getting more schools on. I mean, this is kind of the year that if you were set up for that, you're in good shape. I mean, you just, it was, even streaming the duel the other night, we had a lot of people online, and some people commented, and, that, it was nice to kind of know what was going on. And so I think this year more than ever, I think people are evaluating what they're using and how they're using it, and how they can reach some of those people to keep them coming back in the future. So, I think there's a little bit more of that happening out there, which is fantastic, for the casual fan.
Yeah, I think it's as good a time as it's ever been to be a wrestling fan. It's a little stressful and tough to be a wrestling coach or a wrestler or a wrestling parent, but for grandma and grandpa sitting at home, if we can get them to the right spot, or just a casual fan that's, somebody like like me that doesn't have to go to every tournament, but I want to watch as much as I can. You get to see a lot, so that's been nice.
Right.
And hopefully that continues off into the future, when we're not, in this weird time.
It's a little bit like crack cocaine in the sense that if you're gone, that if you don't have anything, I remember a couple weeks ago, I watched most of the McCook tournament online because I didn't have much else going on a Saturday, and I would be busy otherwise. And it was nice to have that. And even sometimes, even if there's not commentary, that's okay. I mean, at least you get an opportunity. You kind of know some of the kids and different things, but
yep.
I hope it continues, and it's sure fun. I enjoy doing it. I'm a little dangerous on there. I don't know everything. It'd be nice to have a color guy that could fill in all the blanks. And I had an old coach, John Aldrich, help me for years, or for the last couple of years, and he hasn't been able to be there, but he checks in, and I kind of update him and keep all those guys abreast. And we send out an alumni email every week, I do, to kind of with the brackets. And I haven't been as good on the Grappler doing that this year just because I've been a little busier, and I kind of feel bad. But I think everybody kind of can navigate track. But, there's probably some people that struggle with that,
Mm-hmm. Have you paid attention to some of the college stuff? One of your wrestlers, I think, was it Jensen wrestled the other day for Wyoming?
Voorhees is up there at Wyoming, and he
was it Jaron Jensen, or which was there?
No, that's an old Jarrett Jensen was the kid that wrestled at UNI. He was Cody Caldwell's roommate. They were down there together when he was down there, and of course Claprot was at Iowa, and he's back in Rapid now, so he helps out at the academy. One of the coaches there, and we've got a couple Wyoming guys, 3 or 4. But Brent's kid is over at Wyoming, and that Fresno State kid moving back to Wyoming at 57 wasn't music to their ears, but
was that right? Was that right kid?
Yeah, he came back, and but Cooper's over there, and he's enjoying it. It sounds like they've had some pretty good wrestle offs and different things, but this year being kind of a free year, I was talking to somebody the other day. This really hurts the seniors and probably the juniors a little bit as we move forward. opportunities that might be
High
available
school seniors and juniors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I knew one kid that had Nebraska had reached out to him and he went elsewhere to a D2 school. But I think part of that was because, the cupboard is going to be full for a couple years more. And, there might be a scramble. If you're a freshman or sophomore and you're pretty decent, you're probably sitting in a good spot. But some of those older kids, it's going to be tough. But, like that Turnquist got a big win the other night, got a
Yeah.
pin.
Yeah.
For the Northern team, and they beat Upper Iowa for the first time in I don't know how
Ever.
long, if ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, first time. That's I don't. However, forever is it's that
Yeah.
long. Well, since both teams have been D2, so
Right.
yeah, no,
And
that's a great win.
the Althoff kid, I think, won, and Watertown
Yep.
got some kids back in the lineup. They had a COVID issue right after the invite, and even during that, I think they had some kids out. So they look like their lineups kind of put back together over there. They were over in West Central, and so it'll be interesting next week, kind of how that Mitchell tournament shakes out. And I was telling our coach, I said we should find somebody to duel on Friday night if we're going to be over there, just to get our two, to get another match.
Yeah.
If we can, we want to be greedy a little bit, but with the ESD and how they do their duels and their conference championship, it's always tough to duel some of those schools because they're locked in to dueling their interconference stuff, so it may be challenging, but this year I think everybody's been very flexible on picking stuff up and rescheduling different things. And but yeah, like I said, the seeds went out on the website today, I think, or yesterday. So my assumption is everybody got a number next to theirs. They opted in because you have to tell the state you want in. And the teams that don't, I assume they're out, which, there might be some that might surprise you on there that aren't in, but, I don't know what their situation is, or if maybe they forgot and they're going to call Monday and say, oh, wait, we're in, or whatever. But it's been interesting. I hope we get there. I hope that, the state allows a few more fans in there. And I think for the most part, some of the people that might be at risk, they're not going to go anyway. They're going to stream everything on public television, and it's a pretty good feed. So, you can see a lot of those matches, and you can look back at a lot of them. So, it'll be interesting to see. I usually help on the floor with the tappers and the referees and stuff. And I kind of told my AD, I'm like, you might want to find somebody to do the Bs because I don't think I'll be over there and make that free. Yeah. So I think they even reached out, I think, and mentioned that they might be looking for help because a lot of the guys that used to do the table scoring and everything, they may not want to come, because they could be at risk, So I think there was kind of not a plea for help, but like, if you're interested, let us know, because I think this year more than ever, there might not be people that can help, and be available to kind of run everything in two different areas. So that creates a little bit more horsepower that we need.
I think you've got enough time between now and the state tournament that you could get into good enough shape where you could run back and forth. I think you'll be just fine. Just maybe get a new pair of shoes.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I usually take a couple pair to those tournaments anyway, and I usually switch about halfway through.
Yeah.
Because I put so many steps on it, and my feet hurt so bad. My feet are so flat; it's horrible.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple guys lined up, and I've reached out to some people, and I hope that's the only thing we have to worry about.
Well, that would be that'd be the best case scenario. That's the only thing you got to worry about.
But I mean, for the fans, going back and I don't know that they'll be able to go back and forth. I think with the 22 referees, they even talked about. I kind of heard that they may split them, and normally when you put in, to referee, A's or B's, or you used to, I think, and then they started using everybody, and they just rotated. Some of the regions hire their own officials, but this year they might keep them separate, even though they probably be together at night. But they might just keep them separate for that reason. Either you'll be on the A side or the B side. So, that may happen this year too, as well. And even from an official standpoint, there's some guys that aren't doing it this year. There's a few people that have, just they're not doing it because their kids are getting older, or some of the younger guys. So I've seen, I saw 3 or 4 officials this weekend I haven't seen ever. So, there's some new guys, that are out there as well. And that's got to be another challenge, not only in our sport, but in others this year. So,
Well, I tell you what, all the demographics, the whole pulling everything together come the state wrestling tournament could be interesting because we have, a solid here in North Dakota 4 or 5 weeks left and we are there. Time flies and yet we're so far away from actually knowing what's happening. Usually, like you said, you're getting your state tournament tickets right about now.
right.
I don't even know if they've decided how many per team can get yet. And so it's going to be last minute for lots of stuff in our state.
Yeah, I think that'll happen. For middle school state, we ended up breaking it down to 2 different sessions, and we don't know how we're going to split it by weight class yet. And we're going to do a girls' state tournament, middle school state, on Sunday. I believe we're going to try if we have the numbers, so that they can, have their tournament. But yet, some of those girls this year, a seventh grader could opt in and wrestle in the state girls individual tournament. So they're going to have to make the same choice that a lot of those other eighth graders might have to make. Does my coach want me to wrestle regions, which is technically another event that's not sanctioned by the Activities Association. But we did talk to them a few years ago when we started, and they allowed them to come back and practice for that week leading up to regions, which is nice for those smaller schools that don't have the numbers. And it's not an out of season event, so to speak. But some of those girls may have to make that decision. And again, I think we talked before, the girls are allowed in to wrestle in the duels for the state tournament, but they're not allowed into the boys state individual tournament because they've already added their girls individual state tournament. So some of those decent middle school kids, may want to skip the middle school tournament because they may have an opportunity to get in, and they haven't. And one of the things that I think the state's working on as well, they haven't established the weight classes yet. They were trying to get some feedback based on some of the tournaments, but they all didn't always weigh them in and put them in a group. So I don't know that they know. And I've heard some people talking like, geez, if it's 15-pound weight class difference, and there's only 4 weight classes, like when Missouri started out, some of the girls are going to be undersized in some of those areas too. And, I don't know if they're going to revisit that or if they're just going to try it with 4 and run with that and see what happens.
Well, it all depended on numbers. When they first mentioned 4, they were thinking you'd have 60 to 80 girls.
Correct.
But now when the numbers could be over 100 in the state, that starts to change a little bit on your perspective on 4 weight classes.
Well, yeah, this weekend I know Spearfish had took some girls out to press show, assuming Canton was going to bring their 15 or 18, whatever they have.
Right.
Well, when Canton didn't come, somebody had mentioned bug in their ear that they didn't. But thank goodness that Lyman had a few, Hot Springs had 1 or 2. Some of these other teams had girls, and they got some matches, so that was kind of a good deal over there. But if you've got some girls on your team and you're dueling Canton, they're going to get matches, because they've got a lot of girls on their team
or peer
right now. So
okay. Have you even looked? I haven't looked. I usually do a little search on track and how many girls are actually participating in the state of South Dakota. Have you heard anything?
If you go to the Activities Association website, ours, they have girls wrestling listed, and I think they're rostered under that separate section.
Okay.
I haven't looked at that. I know Lennox has 4 or 5, 6. Canton's obviously got some, and they're sprinkled. The Pier's got quite a few. Some of theirs are a little bit younger. But I think for the most part they're listed separately. But I think in track, I don't think they set up. Some states have a separate girls season because you click on high school boys, and I think they're listed on the high school boys teams. But on the Activities Association, some of those teams, I think, were supposed to list their girls separately. And I don't know if everybody did or if they got it done or whatever, but I don't know the number. But I would guess it's in that 50 range. But, we've got 1 or 2 on our team, I believe.
I'm guessing you're closer to the 100 range in the state.
We could be, but I just don't know that they're all there, John. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if everybody's got them listed, and if they, I haven't been to enough tournaments because they're all so small to know really what the numbers are.
Okay, because
we had quite a few for the invite. We had a separate girls division, and there were some teams that brought a lot of girls, so they had their own division. But I didn't look at the head count on that either. But there may be close to 100. I just, and I know I've heard some teams have had some quit, and too. So I don't know, retention wise, that first year is going to be a little, an adjustment if they haven't grown up in a wrestling family,
Right. And with COVID. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah,
No
I
doubt.
mean, there's a lot of that. And, I know there's some team, everybody's got different close contact rules. And gosh, we were in Madison a few weeks ago, and some of the Chamberlain kids, I know they had to wear a mask when they wrestled. So John Donovan had got, like, the ski mask that you wear under a helmet for snowmobiling. He
Yeah.
had bought their team those, and some of those kids were out there in those with the headgear over it, and trying to, breathe and pull it down a little bit. But, so everybody's kind of got a different way that they're handling it, depending on whether you're close contact. And then some schools don't even require masks, at school, or it's optional, or only when they get up, or, so it's different. Oh,
Okay.
there's 105. Okay.
Not so bad. Thank you for
No,
telling me, Mike.
and that's, when I looked at it, it was early in the year, probably early December. So all the teams didn't have everybody up there, but that's good to see. That's a good number. And if they all opt in, there'd be 20 in a bracket.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be pretty busy. And that was one of the things we were worried about. Do we want to really have a girls' middle school tournament when most of them should probably opt in and go to the experience of wrestling in the Civic Center? And I hate to have somebody not go there and come to middle school state and have one other girl in their bracket and then not have that other opportunity. But then again, everybody's got to make that decision on the boys' side too. So it kind of is what it is.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Well, Bill, we're already out in 10 minutes plus. Bill, let's talk just a little bit of college and some other stuff that probably you are the man at. I did get to catch some of the NDSU duel. I watched Kellen March lose his first match, a 4-0 close match. I tell you what, University of Northern Iowa is tough.
They're very good.
I didn't realize when I started going through the rankings how many of their guys are ranked, and so they're solid.
What did the SDSU NDSU duel end up, Bill? I didn't see the end. What was
NDSU won by 8. So
okay.
They were up by 5 going into the heavyweight match, and Mets won in ultimate tiebreakers. So
okay.
It was kind of a, John and I were talking earlier. Brandon has had a tendency, he has his whole life, he is completely fearless on these, taking a throw whenever he feels like it's there. Well, twice this year, he's thrown himself right to his back and got pinned. And so they go into the heavyweight match and they're ahead by 5, and he'd get tied up, and you could hear, every NDSU coach getting, get out of there. So
clear the tie.
And he held off, but in turn, he didn't find another way to score, until he got a takedown. He actually got a takedown in the last ultimate tiebreaker. So he was going to win at that moment anyway, just based on riding time, but it was exciting. Now we did jinx Kellen Marsh, obviously, last week. He not only did he lose against Upper Northern Iowa, he also lost against South Dakota State. So
I watched that match right before I went, and that kid that he wrestled had a little trouble with the Northern Iowa kid, Biscaglia, Kyle from Waukee, with his stance. And if you've never wrestled a kid like that with being on one knee,
it's tough.
It is. And I've always told Jack to attack the hand that's down, and I think, and I don't know what the right answer is or how you do that, and he was pretty springy, almost like JB springy. So, it was a tough match because that kid was really long, but boy, he could ride.
Yeah. That's what happens, right? When you're not real good on your feet, that you just got to get to the point where you can get on top. And sometimes that's, you find a way. So, but obviously a good day. We're at wrestling in Brookings for Northern Iowa. They come out with two pretty dominant wins. North Dakota State have a real close duel. NDSU comes out on top. I saw some real good stuff from some South Dakota State guys. I saw some real good stuff from NDSU guys. I was interested at 165. They NDSU bumped Luke Weber up from 65 up to 74 to wrestle. He'd been wrestling and stuck in, I don't remember the name of the guy.
He wrestled Kate.
King. But I was trying to think of who they put in. NSU put in at 65, and he looked really good. So, that was. I have to believe that more than likely, last year Luke was at 74. He's not a big 65 pounder, but those guys must have wrestled last year, and they felt, they would be in pretty good shape, putting Luke up at 74. But it was
a Montana kid.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
4-time state champion Montana. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he originally went to Nebraska. He transferred mid-season 2 years ago now, I think. But
I did find, so I was over at my parents in Sioux Falls on Friday night, and I was checking my Twitter feed, and all of a sudden I saw, whoa, my parents had the Big Ten Network, and I'm like, so I went over to the Nebraska
Minnesota
duel Friday night, and I was watching it with my wife and my sister, and I was telling them some things and showing some things to my son Max, who was staying with us too. We stayed there because it's right close to Brandon, but that was a good duel.
Yeah, it was a good duel. Yeah, there's
little surprised
that's kind of it,
25. Right? Yeah. Did you?
Well, I was surprised. I actually turned that duel on because I was watching the duel prior, and I turned that one on, and by the time I turned it on, McKee was, he was already way behind, and then he just didn't have any answers. But those two kids should be closer than that. I thought, so it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. Good duel. Nebraska looked good. Minnesota had, they had some bright spots, but that's Nebraska's a little better team. They were ranked a little higher. They looked pretty good. So
I enjoyed the Lee match I thought Lee wrestled pretty good.
Lee, yeah, he's going to be pretty good at 57. I think that he's a little more comfortable there.
And Sparks wrestled pretty good.
Sparks looked really good for
against Rob,
freshman. Yeah, he
What
looked
was
really
that
good.
O'Reilly kid? I thought he didn't wrestle that night, did he? That Brendan O'Reilly, wasn't he there in their lineup last year? I thought, or did he graduate?
Yeah. No. He I think he was replaced by a true freshman, or if I remember right. So
I saw too that O'Toole went up a weight class, and then they wrestled that kid you talked about last week, that Jaquez or whatever his name, and he looked like he was fine up a weight.
Keegan, yeah. I didn't see all those results today. I did see, early in the week he wrestled again. Yeah, he had tech fall. Oh no, it was a major. Yeah, so I think he started at least, and I'm sure he wrestled 2 matches today and probably looked pretty good. So
the Voorhees kid. I think he ran into him at U23s.
Oh, did he?
I think
well, that
so.
would have been bad because O'Toole looked really good at U23s.
I think he did. I'd have to look back.
I think I remember that too. I think I remember seeing Voorhees was there, and I went looking for that match. But I know Keegan's really good, and that Jared Jacques is good, and actually they have another good guy at 65, another Wisconsin kid. So Peyton Mako. So it's it's kind of a weird year, right? Because it's a lot of O'Toole, for example, is a true freshman. So there's no reason to redshirt him. Because it's a free year, and they'll be able to just kind of put him in and out and figure out where he fits. And it comes to be end of the year, he may be one of the guys that's at the national tournament at some weight.
Right. Yeah. It's a weird year in that, a lot of those guys are, they're probably having some pretty good internal battles, not knowing who they're really going to put out there because it's not normally set as much. And with this free year, it's crazy how many, just think of all these seniors coming out. Where are they going to go?
Right.
You're going to have to walk on everywhere, right? If at what point, like Rocky said, at what point do they have to say, we can't handle more than 30 or 35? Right. You don't have room.
Same with Mankato. They only have so many. And I know Jim will watch this later. He kind of mentioned too, that he's got to just kind of wait and see.
A lot of these coaches at every level have got to be pulling their hair out because you just don't know how you're going to manage it. And a lot of these, and at the D1 level, we'll say, a lot of those guys may want to wrestle a year or two beyond and see what happens at the senior level. So they're not going to leave. They don't want to. they don't want to leave it, but then again, they don't also want to pay the money to go to school for another year. If you're going to that sixth year,
Right.
So
And I wonder if some of the seniors that graduate, I wonder if some of those guys will be attracted to an RTC of some sort, or maybe take a year off and not go to school right away and then wait and see. But I just don't know if you get lost then because you're not out in the spotlight.
well,
Because I
there's still
did
going to be
see,
a bunch of good juniors that show up.
that's what I mean.
It's,
I mean,
it's
that's
there's going to be a squeezing process, and maybe some of those kids, find a home at at another school, right? Maybe they go wrestle at a junior college or something like that, and then make that jump. But
right.
that's a place for a lot of them to go if they make that decision, right? And they mentally say, hey, this is something I can do just to spend a year getting better,
Right.
and then go try to move into a good room. So
Right. Yeah.
there's some
That'll be
really
interesting.
really good community colleges out there.
Absolutely.
So I guess we could just kind of run through real quick the NSIC Division II first week. Almost all those duels were on Thursday night. Northern State, we mentioned that they went to Upper Iowa, pulled out that duel. Some real nice individual wins in there for some Northern kids. Mentioned Mankato State or Minnesota State. Mankato, Jim Mikowski, they traveled the big long trip to Minot, and they looked really good. I don't know, I know Jim was nervous about making the trip and getting that duel in, trying to get the first one in. He's got all those other concerns you got to worry about as far as COVID goes. So they looked really good. And Minot had some bright spots. I saw that they had a Nathan Baca. He was a 65-pounder last year. He dropped down to 57 this year and got a win there. So he was not a small 65-pounder. So, and he's strong. He was real strong. Obviously, St. Cloud State made a trip all the way up to Mary, beat Mary. They won 9 of 10 matches.
Yeah, very heavily.
Yeah. Now, Mary got a nice win from Max Bruss at 174 pounds, 1-0 victory. But Bruss is a tough kid. He was wrestling 49 last year. Now he's wrestling 74 and looks like a full-size 74. And the guy he wrestled is a good, solid kid. Well, he's in the lineup at St. Cloud State, so that should tell you one thing. But he's a good, solid kid. He's been Donovan's been a starter there, and been in and out of the lineup at 65 over the last couple of years too. So, Southwest State won Southwest Minnesota State won a real close duel with at MSU on Moorhead. We did. I guess I should go back to the Minot duel too. The other nice win that they got is another North Dakota kid, Jordan Will at heavyweight, and Jordan looks heavy, looks healthy. Obviously, this was the year he didn't have to play football too, so he's coming in kind of ready to wrestle, and he's healthy, and he's going to cause some troubles for heavyweights around the region, I believe. So,
Did Augie wrestle Saturday, or did they?
Augie wrestled yesterday. Yep,
Or yesterday. Yeah.
So now I'll go back to the Moorhead duel for a second. We did have Mason Schultz got a nice win there. Bismarck kid, obviously. Besides that, I didn't see all of that duel. There was 3 duels going on. I was trying to watch all at the same time, or maybe at least 3. But I did see Mason's match and a few others. I saw their heavyweight match. That one came down to heavyweight. But Southwest Minnesota State came out on top of that. That's probably all of them except for Augie went to Wisconsin Parkside on Saturday. I don't know why they wrestled that duel on Saturday, but they did. It was a very close duel. It was kind of weird. Augie came out, or Parkside came out, won the first 2 matches with major decisions, and then Augie came out the next 2 matches and got pinfalls. And it kind of went back and forth that way, but Augie did get the win in the duel at the end. So Wisconsin Parkside's coming this week to Northern State on Thursday night. And I don't remember what the rest of the schedule is, but we'll talk about them Wednesday.
Yeah, that's pretty good, Bill, though. You remember everything usually.
Yeah. Now, we did have some fun senior level wrestling that happened on Friday, Saturday night. Obviously, we did not get the Jordan Burroughs, David Taylor match. We had a COVID issue, but that is going to happen Wednesday night. I don't know what time. It's in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm thinking about going down there. We should broadcast live from Lincoln. I don't know if they'd let us in, but that will be happening Wednesday night. So
when are we leaving?
It'll have to be earlier in the day, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, but they did have some great matches. I saw some interesting stuff, right? Hayden Zilmer and Jaden Cox wrestled. That's Jaden Cox's first match since last February. He's actually, I don't know if you guys saw that, but he had a battle. He had a battle with COVID. Actually spent the day in the hospital. I mean, you're talking about a guy, we always talk about, hey, the people that are, at risk. I mean, is there a person that's in better shape than Jaden Cox? I could not even imagine one in the world. And he actually wasn't sick. He had an interview. He wasn't sick. He just got tested, right? Because everybody's testing. And he got a phone call the day he got tested, the day that the results came back. And he was actually doing USADA was there doing his drug test. And the doctor called and said, you're positive. And he said, well, I can't be. He's got to be wrong. He said, no, we did 2 tests. Sent them both in, both positive. Well, I'm just straight here getting my drug testing. He got on the phone. The doctor got on the phone with the guy from USADA, said, you have to get out of there now. This guy is positive. And Jaden wasn't sick. And within a few, 3-4 days later, he got a fever, and then he couldn't breathe, and ended up in the hospital for a day on oxygen. Then they sent him home with an oxygen machine. And so, yeah, it's a real deal. So, but now he's back and he wrestled Hayden Zilmer last night. Saturday night. And, Zilmer's tough. He's just so strong. And I just don't know how you ever score on Jaden Cox. I really am going to be very curious how that match with him and Schneider goes, at the Olympic trials. But we're actually going to see Cox wrestle again on Wednesday night. He's going to wrestle again Wednesday. So, that he shook a little rust off there on Saturday night, and then he'll wrestle again Wednesday against Nate Jackson.
I don't think my wife will take the excuse for starting church back up Wednesday night to see these matches. I don't know.
Oh, well,
gonna have to make sure. Yeah.
But the James Green had a match with Pat Lugo. James Green is on his way down to 65 kilograms, and then him and I don't know, a couple handfuls of other senior athletes are going to France this week to wrestle. So James is, I think that weight class, the weight that they agreed on was like 152, and James weighed in at 150 because he's going to have to make 67 kilograms actually in France. So, but he was starting to run out of gas a little bit. So he's trying to get down. He didn't win the match. But that was Seth Gross had a great match. He got a tech fall over who did he wrestle? Illinois kid. Anyway, let's see who else. Oh, Ron Heaton had a nice win. South Dakota product, obviously. Oh, Zane Richards. That's who Seth wrestled. So that was fun. There was a lot of good matches. One fun one. Nathan Lezak wrestled. And he wrestled Matt McDonough. So Matt McDonough came out of retirement and wrestled, and Lezak got a takedown and got on top and looked like Lezak on top. Just did kind of high gut and tech followed him with a high gut. Just kept turning him and turning one way and turn. I think he got riding time if they gave it. So it was fun. And then the feature match of the night was a women's match, and Tamara Mensah-Stock ended up winning that match. That's bumping up a weight class. So it was world champion against Adeline Gray. I think Adeline Gray's a 4-time world champ. Tamara Mensah-Stock's a 1-time world champ. And it was a good match. It was fun to watch. Those women are passionate about the sport. I would recommend going and watching. Ben Askren had a couple interviews with both those two before, earlier in the day or Friday, and they're on Flow Wrestling and really, really good interviews. It's just we're talking about the girls, getting started in South Dakota, and to hear Adeline Gray talk about it, it's kind of fun to she grew up in Colorado, and there's, she was wrestling boys obviously all the time. But we got a gal there that's one of the best that's ever done it. So that was fun. I think sometime we should get Tamira Metza-Stock on this show. She would just be fun.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll work at it, whatever it takes. I'm still working on trying to get one of our guys in. He might be this Wednesday. We'll see.
Yeah. It'll be. Well, obviously he was in Nebraska doing the broadcast on Friday. So, it's good just to see the Big Ten get started. Good to see Division I going. Got the first Division II match in. We got 5 more to go. Like I said, there's, one thing I was going to mention, and this kind of popped into my head. Tom mentioned, at these mask mandates at these tournaments, and it's hard for anybody to enforce it. But kind of came up today at Northern State in the Barnett in the BC with, Rocky having a tournament there. You got 400 kids. It really, really was a well-run tournament. But, we have the opportunity to go into these facilities. And if they ask us to put a mask on, I just don't think there's any doubt. I mean, I think or else we're not going to have places to have tournaments. We'll be trying to run them outside. And that's harder to do in February than you would think. And so if I know that Rocky Burkett does not want to be running around telling people to put their mask on, but I think it's a one warning and you go home, because you just can't risk losing the place that you're going to run your tournaments at. And I know Rocky's planning on running one more nice tournament there this year, and you don't want to risk that. So wherever you're at, and if they're letting us run a tournament there, if the rules say wear a mask, I think you just got to man up and put it on and say this is the price we pay for being able to do this year. So that would be kind of popped in my mind when you're talking about, because I just know that the last thing anybody wants to do is have a administrator say, you know what, I saw too many people running around all masks. I don't want anything to do with that. We're going to get bad. Something's going to happen, and we don't want that bad press. So
they were really worried about that at preseason nationals, because the facility had those restrictions, and they didn't have enough people to really enforce that with as many people that were in there. So it was a constant reminder, and it almost, it was rhetorical, but I mean, they couldn't say it enough, and I get it. And I think now we're a little bit more conditioned now, because we've had to do it, because we know that's what it takes. Yep. And I think people are comfortable with it, even though they might not be, but I think they get it, at least the wrestling families and the kids and coaches. But, it's certainly challenging, but I think we're doing a better job for sure than we were back then.
Right. Yeah. Well, I sure believe it. So,
yeah.
Besides that, I don't have a whole lot more. It was a pretty full week of wrestling. We did, there was a couple tournaments we didn't talk about. Henniger had their tournament, obviously. Williams County had a tournament up there. I did notice that Henniger had a tournament. They were not in it, so I don't know the answer to that question. But
I thought they were.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe
Chewy's name was in there. My wife usually goes through the brackets on the way home, and I thought Peyton's name came up, but she went through everything because Sturgis was up there, and I thought he was in the bracket.
Wait, he was there in that one, but they didn't have a team score for them. That's the only reason I didn't see it. But yeah, he was in there, and I saw that Gerhard beat him. I knew that too, but I was just looking for team scores, and I did not see a team score for them. I wonder why, if that was maybe.
I don't know, because they did some round robins that they didn't.
Maybe there's they were there. They were there for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't see. Yeah, when I here. Yeah, they were definitely there. But because I saw Gerhard beat Tui again. I did hear there was going to be some changes too. I heard that some guys are changing weight classes here. I don't know why anybody at this weight would move up or down, but it sounds like it's happening.
Well, we'll see over the next few weeks. Well, we've gone for an hour and a half. Guys, I appreciate it. We'll be on again now. I haven't talked to Bill about it yet, but I might do a little bit later on Wednesday so we can watch those matches. I'd like to watch it and just try to do a shorter show Wednesday night. But I do have 2 people kind of on the line to see if they want to come on, and both of them are willing to go on a little bit later, it sounds like. So we're going to just come Wednesday for the Dakota Grappler Live. This was the breakdown show on Sunday, just to talk a little bit more wrestling as the season goes. Do appreciate Tom hopping in. I needed to find out what's happening in South Dakota. Thanks again.
Yep.
Bill, always good. We'll visit along the way and see what happens between now and Wednesday. So you guys have a great night. Dakota Grappler, we're out of here. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
You too.